The penthouse was a cathedral of glass and steel, perched high above the city's restless sprawl. From the floor-to-ceiling windows, Elena Carter could see the world she'd conquered, a glittering tapestry of skyscrapers piercing the dawn, their mirrored surfaces reflecting a sun that seemed to bow to her will. She stood there every morning, coffee in hand, watching the horizon shift from shadow to gold. To the outside world, she was a titan, a visionary who'd turned pixels into a multi-billion-dollar empire. But to her family, she was still the little girl with a sketchbook and a head full of impossible dreams, a nobody who'd never amount to much. For 15 years she'd kept that secret locked tight, a vault buried beneath a carefully crafted lie. Today that vault was about to crack wide open. Elena wasn't her real name, not the one her family knew anyway. To them she was still Ellie, the quiet, awkward kid who'd stumbled through life under the weight of their expectations. Ellie was the girl who'd spent her childhood doodling in the margins of her math homework, the one her father had scolded for wasting time on foolish games. Ellie was the broke 20-something who'd lived in a cramped studio apartment, scraping by on instant noodles while her siblings climbed the ladders of safe, predictable careers. But Elena? Elena was the name she'd chosen when she stepped into the digital abyss and built something no one, not even she, had believed possible. It started with a single drawing, a jagged, neon-lit dragon, its scales shimmering with a life of their own, born from the chaos of her imagination and a pirated copy of Photoshop. She'd posted it online, half asleep and fueled by desperation, to a niche forum where weirdos and dreamers traded pixelated fantasies. Someone offered her $50 for it, then 100, then 1,000. She didn't know it then, but that dragon was the spark that ignited an infernoan empire of non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, that would one day be worth over $4 billion. A fortune built on art her family had dismissed as child's play. For 15 years she'd lived a double life. By day she was Ellie, the perennial disappointment, showing up to family dinners in faded jeans and a beat-up Honda, spinning tales of odd jobs and freelance gigs to keep the ruse alive. By night she was Elena, the shadowy genius behind a digital revolution, commanding a team of coders, artists, and investors from a sleek office hidden in plain sight. She bought the penthouse 3 years ago, cash, no mortgage, and filled it with the kind of luxury her family couldn't fathom: marble floors, abstract sculptures, a private elevator that hummed like a promise. But she never let them see it. She couldn't. They wouldn't understand. Her phone buzzed on the counter, shattering the morning's stillness. She glanced at the screen. Forbes. The article was live. Elena Carter, the phantom queen of the NFT empire, due la $4.2 billion and counting. Her chest tightened, a mix of dread and exhilaration coiling around her ribs. She'd known this day was coming, had orchestrated it, even, but knowing didn't soften the blow. The world would see her now, all of her, and so would they. Her family, the people she'd spent half her life hiding from. She scrolled through the piece, her pulse quickening with every word. It was meticulous, relentless: dates, deals, dollar amounts she'd buried under layers of aliases and shell companies. There was a photo too, one she'd reluctantly approved, her silhouette against the city skyline, sharp and unyielding, her face obscured just enough to keep the mystique alive. The article called her a digital alchemist, a revolutionary who turned art into gold. It was all true, and yet it felt like a stranger's story. Because the Ellie they knew, the Ellie her family pitied, couldn't possibly be this woman. The first call came at 7:13 a.m. Her brother, Nathan. She let it ring, watching the screen pulse like a heartbeat. Nathan was the golden child, the one who'd followed their father's blueprint to the letter. College, law school, a corner office at a firm downtown. He'd always looked at her with a mix of pity and impatience, his voice dripping with that smug older brother certainty. "Ellie, you need to grow up," he'd say, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, as if her dreams were a phase she'd outgrow. She wondered what he'd say now. The second call was her mother. Then her sister, Claire. Then Nathan again. By 7:30 her phone was a symphony of missed calls and texts, each one a crack in the dam she'd built around her truth. She silenced it and set it face down, her hands trembling slightly as she poured another cup of coffee. She didn't need to hear their voices to know what they'd say. Shock, anger, betrayal, maybe a grudging awe, though she doubted it. They'd never believed in her. Why start now? The story of how she'd gotten here wasn't the fairy tale Forbes made it out to be. It was a war fought in the dark, against doubt and despair and the voices that told her she'd fail. She'd been 22, fresh out of a community college art program her parents had begrudged paying for, when she'd stumbled into the world of digital art. Back then it was a wild west of forums and chat rooms, a playground for misfits who traded sketches for pennies or praise. She'd been one of them, broke and restless, living in a shoebox apartment with peeling paint and a landlord who pounded on the door every first of the month. Her first big break came by accident. A tech nerd named Ravy, a guy she'd met in a Discord server, saw her dragon and asked if she'd heard of blockchain. She hadn't. He explained it over a glitchy Skype call digital ownership, immutable records, a way to sell art that couldn't be copied or stolen. She'd laughed at first, thinking it sounded like a scam. But Ravy was persistent, and she was desperate. They minted her dragon as an NFT, a clunky process that took 3 days and a borrowed laptop. It sold for 10 grand. 10 grand. She'd stared at the PayPal notification, hands shaking. Convowine said it was a glitch. It wasn't. From there it snowballed. She taught herself coding, learned the ins and outs of Ethereum, built a portfolio of shimmering, otherworldly pieces that caught the eye of collectors with deep pockets. By 25, she was pulling in 6 figures a month. By 27, she'd hired a team Ravy included and incorporated under a pseudonym. By 30, she was a millionaire, then a multimillionaire, then a billionaire, all while her family thought she was temping at a graphic design firm for minimum wage. She could have told them. Should have, maybe. But every time she pictured it sitting across from her father's stern frown, her mother's worried sighs, Nathan's condescending smirk, she froze. They'd never supported her art. Her father, a retired engineer, had called it a waste of a good mind. Her mother, a nurse who prized stability above all, had begged her to get serious before it was too late. Nathan had laughed outright once when she'd mentioned selling a piece online. What, some geek paid you for a doodle? Don't quit your day job, Ellie. And Claire, the baby of the family, had been too busy chasing Instagram fame to care. So she'd kept it hidden. She'd bought a cheap apartment in a rundown part of town, drove a rusting CYC she'd nicknamed the Beast, wore thrift store sweaters to family gatherings. She'd lied about late nights at the office, about why she couldn't afford to chip in for their parents' anniversary cruise. She'd let them believe she was struggling, because the alternative, telling them she'd out-earned them all 10 times over, felt like handing them a grenade. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Claire this time. Ellie, what the hell is this Forbes thing? Is this you? Call me now. Elena smirked, a bitter edge to it. Claire, with her influencer gigs and her curated life, would hate this most of all. She'd spent years flaunting her success, a few thousand followers, a sponsored skincare line, while quietly pitying her loser sister. Elena could already hear the jealousy in her voice. She was about to reply when the doorbell chimed, a low melodic hum that echoed through the penthouse. She froze. No one came here unannounced. Her team knew to text first, and the building's security was airtight. She crossed the room, her bare feet silent on the cool marble, and checked the Video feed. Her breath caught. Nathan. He stood in the lobby, arms crossed, his tailored suit rumpled like he'd driven straight from the office. Behind him, her mother hovered, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Panic flared, sharp and hot. How had they found her? The penthouse was registered under a shell company, her real address a closely guarded secret. She hadn't even given them her fake apartment's address in years, always meeting them on neutral ground diners, their house, anywhere but here. But Forbes had blown the lid off, and somehow they'd tracked her down. She buzzed them up, her mind racing. There was no time to hide, no way to play this off. The elevator doors would open in 30 seconds, and they'd step into a world she'd spent 15 years shielding from them. She glanced around the sleek furniture, the abstract canvases, the VW that screamed money, and felt a strange calm settle over her. The game was up. Let them see. The doors slid open, and Nathan stormed in first, his face a thundercloud. Ellie, what the fuck is going on? He barked, skipping any pretense of civility. Her mother followed, slower, her eyes wide as they darted from the chandelier to the infinity pool visible through the glass doors. Nice to see you too, Nate, Elena said. leaning against the kitchen island with a casualness she didn't feel. Coffee. Don't play cute, he snapped. He thrust his phone at her. The Forbes article glaring from the screen. This is you? $4 billion? An empire? And you didn't tell us. Her mother stepped forward, voice trembling. Ellie, honey, is this true? All this time. You've been lying to us. Elena met her gaze, unflinching. I didn't lie, Mom. I just didn't tell you the whole story. The whole story? Nathan laughed, harsh and hollow. You've been pretending to be some broke nobody while you're sitting on a fortune? What kind of game is this, Ellie? It's not a game, she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. It's my life. The one I built when none of you believed in me. Her mother's face crumpled, confusion warring with hurt. But why hide it? We're your family. We deserve to know. Did you? Elena shot back, sharper than she'd intended. Every time I tried to tell you about my art, you shut me down. Dad said it was a waste. You told me to get a real job. Nathan laughed in my face. Why would I tell you anything when all you've ever done is judge me? Nathan flinched, but he didn't back down. So what, you punish us by levying this double life? Letting us worry about you, thinking you were struggling, when you're up here in your ivory tower. I didn't want your worry, she said, her voice rising. I didn't want your pity or your lectures. I wanted to do this my way, without you tearing it apart. Her mother sank onto the couch, hands twisting in her lap. Ellie, we just wanted what's best for you. Stability. Security. Not this. She gestured vaguely at the opulence around them, as if it offended her. This, Elena said, stepping forward, is what I made from the thing you called a hobby. From the silly drawings you told me to give up. $4 billion, Mom. And I did it alone. Nathan shook his head, pacing now. You're unbelievable. You think this makes you better than us? Hiding it like some smug little secret. No, she said, meeting his glare. I hid it because I didn't need your approval. I still don't. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling like dust. Her mother stared at her, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Nathan stopped pacing, his jaw tight, fists clenched. For the first time, Elena saw something flicker in his eyes, not just anger but doubt. Maybe even respect. She wasn't sure which scared her more. Her phone buzzed again. Claire, no doubt, ready to pile on. Elena ignored it. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Her family wouldn't let this go quietly. They never did. But standing there, in the empire she'd built from nothing, she felt something shift inside her. The fear, the shame, the need to prove herself, it was slipping away, replaced by a quiet, unshakable certainty. She was Elena Carter, not Ellie. And she was done hiding. The confrontation with Nathan and her mother was only the beginning. Over the next few days, the calls didn't stop. Claire left voicemails laced with venom, accusing Elena of stealing the spotlight and making us look like fools. Her father, silent so far, sent a curt text. We need to talk. In person. Elena knew what that meant, a family summit, the kind they'd held when Nathan got into law school, or when Claire landed her first brand deal. Back then, she'd been the odd one out, the quiet shadow in the corner. Now, she'd be the center of the storm. She agreed to meet them at their childhood home, a modest split level in the suburbs she hadn't sighted in over a year. Driving there in her beat-ups OIC, she hadn't had time to ditch the prop, felt surreal, like stepping into a costume she'd outgrown. The house looked smaller than she remembered, its faded siding and overgrown lawn a stark contrast to the sleek lines of her penthouse. She parked, took a deep breath, and walked inside. They were all there, waiting in the levying room like a tribunal. Her father, Tom, sat in his recliner, arms crossed, his weathered face set in a scowl. Her mother, Diane, perched on the couch, hands clasped tight. Nathan stood by the fireplace, restless as ever, while Claire lounged in an armchair, scrolling her phone with exaggerated nonchalance. The air was thick with tension, a powder keg ready to blow. Ellie, her father said, voice low and gravelly. Sit. I'll stand, she replied, crossing her arms. Say what you need to say. He glared at her, the same look he'd given her at 16 when she told him she wanted to study art instead of engineering. You've got a lot of explaining to do. This Forbes nonsense $4 billion? You expect us to believe that? It's not nonsense, she said coolly. It's fact. Check the blockchain if you don't trust Forbes. Nathan snorted. Oh, come off it. Blockchain? NFTs? You sound like one of those crypto bros scamming people online. They're not scams, she fired back. They're assets. Digital ownership. I built a market for them and my team. You wouldn't understand because you never bothered to listen. Listen to what? Claire cut in, finally looking up from her phone. Your little art projects? We thought you were messing around, Ellie. Not this. She waved a hand, as if the scale of it was too big to grasp. That's the problem, Elena said, her voice sharp. You thought I was a joke. All of you. Dad told me I'd end up on the street. Mom begged me to get a real job. Nathan laughed every time I mentioned my work. Why would I tell you anything when you'd already made up your minds? Her father leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Don't turn this on us. You lied, Ellie. For years. You let us think you were failing, let us worry when you were sitting on billions. That's not family. Family? She echoed, incredulous. Family doesn't tear you down every chance they get. Family doesn't tell you your dreams are worthless. I didn't lie, I protected myself. From you. Diane's voice broke the silence, soft and shaky. We didn't mean to hurt you, honey. We didn't understand. How could we? You never let us in. Elena's throat tightened, but she didn't waver. I tried, Mom. Years ago, I told you I was selling art online. I showed Dad my first big sale, $5,000. He said it was a fluke. Nathan said it wouldn't last. You all told me to stop dreaming and get serious. So I did it without you. Her father's scowl deepened, but he didn't argue. Nathan shifted uncomfortably, his bravado faltering. Claire bit her lip, eyes darting between them. For once they had no comeback. I built this, Elena continued, her voice rising with every word. From nothing. No degree, no trust fund, no help from anyone in this room. For $1 billion, and it's mine. I don't owe you an explanation or anything else. The room went still, the weight of her defiance hanging heavy. Then her father spoke, his tone softer but still edged with stubbornness. If you'd told us, maybe we could have been part of it. Invested. Helped. Elena laughed, a short, bitter sound. Invested? You wouldn't even look at my sketches, Dad. You called them a waste of time. And now you want a piece of it. I'm not saying that, he snapped, but his eyes betrayed him regret, maybe, or envy. Too late, she said. I offered you a chance once. Back when I was starting, I asked if you wanted in. You said no. All of you did. So I did it alone. Nathan stepped forward, his voice tight. So what now, Ellie? You rub this in our faces and walk away? You think you're better than us. No, she said, meeting his gaze. I just don't need you to tell me who I am anymore. Diane stood, reaching for her, but Elena stepped back. Honey, please. We're still your family. We can figure this out together. Elena shook her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I figured it out already, Mom. On my own. You'll have to catch up. She turned and walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time in 15 years she felt free. But freedom came with a price. The fallout was swift and brutal. Claire took to social media, spinning a narrative of betrayal, how her secretive sister had stabbed the family in the back. Nathan called her twice a day, alternating between anger and grudging attempts at reconciliation. Her parents sent letters, actual, handwritten letters, pleading for her to come home and talk it out. Elena read them once, then tossed them in a drawer. She didn't owe them her forgiveness. The world, meanwhile, couldn't get enough of her. Forbes wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Interviews piled up, CNN, Bloomberg, Wired, all clamoring for the story of the Phantom Queen. Her inbox overflowed with offers, partnerships, investments, speaking gigs. Her team scrambled to keep up, RFY grinning ear to ear as he forwarded her the latest 7-figure proposal. You're a legend, Elena, he said during one late-night call. They're calling you the future of art. She didn't feel like a legend. She felt exposed, raw, like a nerve laid bare. The secrecy had been her armor, and now it was gone. But with every headline, every deal, she grew stronger, more certain. This was her empire, her legacy. No one could take it away. A month later, she bought the island. Not a spur-of-the-moment whim, but a calculated move, a sanctuary where she could breathe, away from the noise. It was off the coast of Belize, a crescent of white sand and turquoise water, dotted with villas she designed herself. She named it Draken after that first dragon, and flew her team there for a retreat. They toasted her with champagne under a starlit sky, the waves crashing like applause. Her family didn't know about Draken. Not until she invited them. The idea came late one night, after a call from her mother that left her restless. Diane had sounded different, less accusatory, more broken. "We miss you, Ellie," she'd said. "Not the money. You." Elena hadn't replied, but the words lingered, gnawing at her resolve. She didn't want their approval, didn't need it, but maybe, just maybe, she wanted them to see her. Really see her. So she sent the invitation. A sleek embossed card with coordinates and a date. No explanation, just a request. She chartered a jet, arranged a boat from the mainland, and waited. Part of her hoped they wouldn't come. Part of her prayed they would. They arrived on a Saturday, stepping off the dock with wide eyes and hesitant steps. Her father wore his old fishing hat, incongruous against the island's elegance. Her mother clutched a straw tote, her sundress fluttering in the breeze. Nathan and Claire trailed behind, Nathan in a polo that screamed weekend casual, Claire in designer sunglasses she'd probably gotten for free. They looked out of place, small against the vastness of what she'd built. "Welcome to Draken," Elena said, standing at the Villalale's entrance, her voice carrying over the wind. "My home." Her mother gasped, hand flying to her mouth. "Ellie, this is yours. All of it," she said, gesturing to the villas, the pool, the art installations glinting in the sun. "Bought and paid for. With my silly drawings." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Claire snapped a photo, probably for Instagram, then stopped herself, as if realizing the futility. Her father just stared, his silence louder than any words. "Come inside," Elena said, leading them into the main villa. The interior was a masterpiece, open and airy, with walls of glass and floors of polished teak. A massive digital screen displayed her latest NFT, a swirling galaxy of color that pulsed like a living thing. They sat, awkward and stiff, as she poured them drinks from a bar stocked with top-shelf liquor. "I didn't bring you here to gloat," she began, sitting across from them. "I brought you here to show you what I've done. Not to prove anything, but because you're still my family. Whether I like it or not." Her father cleared his throat, the first to break the silence. Elena, I meant his is. Incredible. I don't understand it, but I can't deny it. I was wrong. About a lot." She nodded, letting the admission settle. "You were. But I didn't do this for you to admit it. I did it for me." Diane's eyes welled up. "We should have listened. Should have trusted you." "I'm so sorry, honey." Elena softened just a fraction. "I don't need sorry, Mom. I need you to see me. Not as the kid who disappointed you, but as who I am now." Nathan shifted, his voice low. "I didn't get it, okay? I thought you were throwing your life away. I was wrong too. But why shut us out? We could have been proud of you." "You weren't ready to be," she said simply. "Maybe now you are." Claire, quiet until now, set her phone down. "This is insane, Ellie. I mean, I'm jealous as hell, but damn, you did this. I can't even hate you for it." Elena laughed, the sound breaking the tension. "You can hate me a little. I won't mind." They stayed for 3 days. Not long, but enough. They walked the beach, toured the island, listened as she explained her work, not the technical details, but the passion behind it. They didn't fully understand, not yet, but they tried. And that was more than she'd ever expected. When they left, her mother hugged her tight, whispering, "I'm proud of you, Elena." Her father clapped her shoulder, a rare gesture of approval. Nathan nodded, a silent truce. Claire smirked and said, "Next time invite me sooner." Elena watched the boat disappear into the horizon, the sun dipping low. She didn't know if this was reconciliation or just a ceasefire. She didn't care. She'd shown them her world, her truth, and they'd seen it. That was enough. Back in the VYLLA, she opened her laptop, the screen glowing with her next project, a phoenix, rising from ashes, its wings ablaze. She smiled. The past was behind her, the future hers to shape. Elena Carter wasn't hiding anymore. She was flying.